Hey, Monique.
Hey, Monique. Hi. And who else? Leah is here. So welcome, Leah. Good evening.
Hello.
We're finally opening up with the view cam so we see each other. That's a good thing.
Oh, okay.
Finally, we're not shy. There's no shyness anymore. Whatever is. Okay, I've got Michelle. Michelle is joining us as well. So I'm glad we got almost everyone today.
Did we miss doing intros? Because one of the things I like about these courses is it's always good to connect with other people and then stay connected.
I think in the first lecture we did manage to do that. Remember, Biju?
Yeah, no, I remember that.
But and it was like 4 of us.
Yes. Right.
And it was a thin attendance, so obviously, I mean, we couldn't get introduced with all of us. So I think Leah was there. But I don't mind. I mean, if you'd like, why don't you just talk to each other for a bit? And let's see if you have any questions to ask with each other or to get to know each other. That's fine. You should do that.
Okay. I was fascinated. I asked Barbara where she is, and she said she's in Texas. That was interesting. And I see Monique has turned the camera on. Where are you located, Monique?
I am in El Sobrante, California. So I'm on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge, or the other side of the Bay Bridge.
Beautiful.
From San Francisco.
Another Californian. It's good.
Yay.
Who else is in California?
Me.
Oh, hey, Biju. Where are you at?
South of Los Angeles, Long Beach.
Oh, I was born there on the Navy base.
Okay. That's cool. And then we have Denise, Leah, and Michelle. I know Leah is in the Philippines.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
Hey, Leah.
Yes, I'm here in Manila, and it's 12 hours ahead of you guys.
Oh, wow.
So,
you turned your camera
but I think
on.
San Fran. Yeah, I did. I thought I wasn't ready. It's like straight from the bed, 6 o'clock. Okay.
That's fine. If you look this good this early in the morning, then rest of the day would just turn out to be fine. Good hair day for sure. And you look,
that's true.
Yeah, finally you get to see each other.
I've been leaving my camera on because I'm trying to encourage everybody to turn the camera on. So I figured I'd be the brave person, and then everybody else would follow.
Well, I'm very glad you did that.
Well, the guy, you did it, Biju, finally. That's
Professor, I want to apologize for last week not being on the ball and getting.
No, not a problem, Barbara. Don't sweat it. The thing is that we all work, and sometimes it's very hard. There are other commitments also, and as it is, it's a big effort really between work and to take the classes, especially this frequent. So pretty used to it, and I understand totally. So don't even worry about it. My only concern gets to ensure that you can catch up with the subsequent lectures because they're so sequential.
Yes.
And that is one reason. The other is the reporting part, which is sometimes difficult for me to control. And it doesn't get produced because it gets edited, then it has to be uploaded, and these are heavy files. And so what happens is that we sort of have to have somebody else do it for us. And that company suddenly got so busy that what used to be like a 24 hours or 48 hours turnaround, now it's becoming longer. And most of the times we have to make, bunch of calls, and then we have to really push them to do it. And in the meantime, what I decided, and I hope this is working out for you, is that I just, whatever gets recorded the way it is without edits, it is available to us on the Zoom platform. So they give us a link, and I just pass that link over to you directly without edits. So it's all raw, exactly, the way things have happened. So even the break time is not shortened, it just stays there. So there is a blank recording for a while and so on, but that you can put up with it.
And Naveen, where is that located? Did you, I know you emailed one, but evidently there was a time limit on that, which I missed sadly. So while I was getting my week on straight.
See, what happens is that Zoom lets us put the recording there for a certain period of time based on how much of the, I guess, the space we have taken in gigabits. So we've got like 10 people who are doing lectures everywhere. They're using the same account. So we decided that in order to prevent that excessive, load that their server needs to carry for us, which is exorbitant amount of money one has to pay after, certain limit, which is where we have a package. And when it crosses that, they charge us like $40 or something like that for a day or so. So we try to avoid that by sort of juggling between what limit we are crossing and how much of it we can consume. So because of that, we sort of get rid of the previous recording because it gets downloaded by that third party who eventually has to do the edits on it and then upload it for us as a permanent link. So when that happens, we sort of release some of the space to fit in the next lecture. So this is how it is working out. But we can work around it. But thing is that we have to provision for it internally so that we have someone in-house, that we can control, or we can, ensure that it gets uploaded on time and so on. So that could be the next step. In summer, it's going to get more busy for us. And we know that this problem might just get to a point where we eventually have to get to there,
Understood,
so,
understood.
Yeah, so that is the dilemma that we have to.
Well, for now, I should be good with all of the upcoming classes. It's just last week I missed the very first one and then the first hour of the second one, I believe.
Yeah, and you did get to the recording, did you or not?
I got the recording, but I didn't view it quickly enough. I just hadn't read thoroughly through it, which is a real rookie mistake for me. Normally I read very carefully, but it said you have until June 3rd. And I just didn't catch that time limit was on it.
For now, did you get enough time? You still have few recordings that you needed. Remember, I kept them for you. I had an email from you day before yesterday.
Oh,
so
okay.
I responded.
Are they located?
Where are they located? Link that I sent you. It's still there. It's not taken away. So the recording for 4th and 5th was Saturday. And I know that for Saturday, I knew that I have to keep that recording. But the previous one on the 4th, and I believe that was Friday last week. So that is there, unless you wanted 4th and 5th.
So just to be clear, I have a Zoom link, but again, the Zoom link that I got said that it had expired. So and that would have
been. Was it for the 3rd?
No, that was for the first recording, the first one.
Oh, that probably because I mean.
And that was in an email that I'd received from you. So if there is a spot on your website or somewhere else where I can access it, or let me know.
What will happen now is that we will get the recordings for 2 weeks. If you want a permanent link, it's going to be the previous week, which is when we started, and this current week. So 2 weeks of recordings will be uploaded by Thursday.
Oh, okay.
Wednesday or Thursday, which is day after tomorrow. And then you would have like a permanent link available to you for up-to-date recordings up until today's lecture, I think. And then we have the other one, the next one that's coming day after tomorrow, I know. I don't know the schedule. I have someone who just reminds me of when my classes are. Unfortunately, I'm just dropping the ball when it comes to so I always have to go back to the schedule again. So if you'd like to look it up one more time, you would see, and I will point it exactly for everyone's benefit based on the schedule. like what recordings you will get as permanent link by the time
Oh,
that.
I see.
Okay, so here is the schedule. It's coming up. You can see my screen, eh?
Yes.
It's showing.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's loading right now. Let's see. Let me open it up. So we did 31st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We still have a temporary link which will take you to the recordings on the 4th and 5th, Friday and Saturday. The ones we did for 31st, which is the first class, and the 3rd of the June, we don't have the recording right now because the link has expired.
Okay.
So we are moving forward from 4th onwards. Now, the links that you will get as permanent uploads would be on the 10th, which is for the all previous classes being 31st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 8th. That will be available on 10th.
Okay.
And then on 10th, I will leave the link available for you, including, I guess, the subsequent class on the 11th. So 10th and 11th, you'll get temp link. Permanent link you will get from 31st up until today's class.
Okay, perfect. And that'll be emailed to us?
Yes, I will email it to you.
Okay, great.
I will email it to you, and I don't leave this to anybody else. So I'm pretty much, as soon as I get it, and I'm the first one who gets it,
Mhm.
So I will make sure I upload it or send it to you the same day. So if I get it on the 9th, I'll send it. If I get it on the 10th, I'll send it to you. It'll come from my email.
All right, beautiful.
Then
Okay.
we've got 3rd week, 4th week, 5th. So we have enough time.
Okay, great.
Not a problem. Let's just return back to the slides. Now, I was discussing previously the importance of using the quotation marks and how the quotation marks enclosed work really well if you know exactly what search phrases to enclose inside of it and what to leave out. Because these are both intentional and it is designed by the user or researcher so that certain words that you don't want to restrict the search for bringing back to you, you would leave them outside of the quotes. Others that you feel strongly that should be returned as part of the index pages that comes to you in your snippets, those ones have to be within quotes, and those that you put in the quotes may not necessarily be the words, so you can use notations and symbols and similar kind of any kind of you could say, even if you put a little bit of kind of empty spaces between and use asterisks, that part we still have to work with to give you an idea of what happens when you put asterisks or you use wildcard inside of the quotation or quoted text. Because that is not considered exactly as if it's a symbol or a number, but rather it has a significance for the search engine to actually look for something that is missing, and that is considered a mark that is asking search engine to provide the best possible wordings to replace it, or even if it is a symbol that needs to be replaced, the asterisks would leave it for the search engine to fill that gap. So that is the only exception. Now, we did do some examples previously, and we were talking about, let's see what the slide was. I think it was this one, wasn't it? Biju, do you remember that we were doing some of the examples from here? We didn't quite finish. We did a few, like the first one, you remember the organic formula of such a chemistry formula somewhere
Yeah, Naveed, I think this was on a day that I missed. I'm waiting to catch up on the recording for this.
Oh, you weren't there, eh? So, okay. Market research. Who was there? Was it Denise? Denise was there, eh? Denise, you're quiet today. Leah?
Yeah, I know. Yes, I think we got through example 4.
Yes. We took this.
No, I think we did until example 3. Example 4, we couldn't finish up, and this is important, so I want to continue with this. But do you mind if I reverse back a little bit just for everybody else to catch up, in case, you know, many of you didn't see the lecture on Saturday.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was talking about the quotations and the quoted or the quotation marks. There were a few issues and few examples we covered previously as well. But the concept itself, I think I explained earlier. And how many of you, other than the ones who were there on Saturday, Bijou and Barbara and others who have worked with quotation marks or used quotation in closed. Is Raymond not in today? I don't see Raymond, right? Raymond was there, I remember. Okay. So any one of you have used a quoted or quotation marks in your search previously?
Yes, I have. Barbara.
Is this Barbara? Okay. So did you find the results were up to your expectations, or there were some issues, or you thought that it wasn't exactly responding the way you wanted it?
It kind of depended. The search, putting things in quotes was helpful on a gross level, but you know, not always would I get the desired results. And so I figured it must be the order of my words or my operators that I would use within quotes. Often the results were much better when I put things in quotes in general.
Okay. Some of the things that you probably wouldn't know in that case is that there are certain ways in which we design our search queries based on the type of wordings we are using. So supposing in this formula, which is a chemistry formula, can you tell me which one of these words or numbers or notations are stop words or the words that search wouldn't consider, even if you had taken the quotations out, or where search would ignore certain notations? One of them is the comma that you see over here, inverted comma right here. That's a stop word. Search is not going to entertain that. Then you have the dashes over here. Who is to know if that dash is a minus sign or if it is, you know, used as part of the long term that you have, a long formula, a chemistry formula. So who knows? Search wouldn't know that. And so there could be some ambiguities attached to it. And that is inherent because of a logic that obviously you will agree with when I explain it to you. For instance, by the way, I use Notepad as a whiteboard. It somehow makes it easy for me to maneuver, change things, and sort of, you know, and in fact, I did that before. So I'm going to open the notes. These become my notes when I do this, write it on the Notepad. So that's convenient, and I'll send those to you as well. So it's a reminder what we covered. Where is that? Quotes explained. So I think this was the one. Yeah, so this was the formula, and you could see that when I, so one of the conventions, let's start with the conventions of how the search would treat this formula if it was not enclosed within quotation marks. So if we have a comma here, it is ignored obviously, but supposing there is a gap of a single digit or a single character, then what happens? If you leave a gap, it is assumed to be a plus sign, okay? Or it is assumed to be a gap that needs to be filled in, or it's missing something. Or the third option for the search is to think of number 3 and a comma together as one term, and rest of it is separated automatically because it has in between the previous term and the one that is starting with number 6 as 2 different terms. Now this has become 2 different terms, whereas 6 is attached to dichloro with the dash. And supposing you still wanted to make it into a third term or a third piece of term that needs to be queried, you can leave a gap in between. So the gap now is saying that you literally have 3 different terms that search has to match. Whereas the dash now is assumed by the search engine as if it is a minus sign, which means that it is no longer a dash or attached something which works between dashes as a conjoiner for 2 words, but rather it has become a minus sign that is eventually going to get rid of the entire formula up till here. Okay, because you see dichloro dash 2 dash pyridine carboxyl, whatever it is. After this, there is another gap of a single character before the last term or the last word acid is attached to it. So literally now what the search is doing is saying that the entire phrase, now this one has become one search term or a search phrase. This will be taken out from the search result only because dash is now become a minus sign. And with the gap over here, it means that it is going to search for acid as a separate term, and whether or not it finds it, or if the word acid is attached to any other term, is for the search engine to decide. Now, all this chaos is happening only because we didn't put the entire thing within the quotation marks. That's number one. Second is, by leaving a gap, even if it is in quotation mark, I'm going to create a third one now, okay? Just to give you another instance where we have the terms inside of quotation mark, yet they are appearing to be different from what you intended for the search to perceive or interpret it. Now, even if this one, number 3, is within the quotes exactly, and if I leave a gap like this, or if I go like this, it is giving a totally different meaning to the search, or it is understood by the search engine as separate terms only because of there is a gap, even though it is within quotation marks. So the logic you have to understand that anything that you're going to put together as one sequence, then make sure there is no gaps in between. So for me to make the search understand entire formula as one search string or one definitive term, then no gaps in between, dashes are part of the formula. In a way, I'm saying the search engine should look at it as if it is a mirror image that they have to find of exact same terms set in the same pattern with the same sequence of notations and everything that is described without gaps. So this is one, and this is the second one. Okay. I could also do to make it a single search term. I can make the word acid to come out of the quotations and appear separate. But what will happen in this situation is that the search is looking at acid with reference to what you have described here, but not necessarily attaching acid as part of the formula you have put inside of the quotes. Why? Because the word acid is not within quotations either, so it is not enforced. It is rather an option for the search to find. On the other hand, if there was if it is chemistry, I'll just put like a weird stuff here because without knowing, I'll just use the word sulfides. Okay. So if it was acid sulfide, for example, the search may not necessarily attach the word acid with the term right here, but rather treat these two as together, or use it in any sequence, which means sulfide acid could be the next option for the search to consider, or even attach any other words to it, meaning that this becomes separate keywords as individual keywords that you are allowing search engine to play with. But if you want the entire search phrase to actually represent the formula as is described in one, then of course you want to restrain it and attach it to the word that is ending here with the C and giving a gap between the word acid. So this is the only way to do it. Hi Raymond, welcome. Today we have everyone open their view cams, not compulsory, but just so that everybody can see each other. It's one of those rare moments, I guess, even for me, to see everyone. Okay, all right. So Raymond, obviously, you know, you are an instructor, teachers teaching somewhere, so you can understand when sometimes the lectures get long or days when we don't feel like coming and teaching. There are days, it's not like, you know, so I'm glad you made it still. We are actually kind of repeating on what we learned on Saturday.
Okay, good.
Because there were so many of you that weren't there, so that's why. Anyway, so for now, is this understood? Like between 1 and 3, the conceptual part, something that makes sense, especially in terms of the gaps that we leave and what the gap would do with certain assumptions that the search engine would like to make. Obviously, I mean, there has to be some sort of mechanical way that you let the machine understand things so that it is structured or it is designed or it has certain rules. So it only plays with the rules and whatever you program it to do. So for now, I think you get an idea of why we have to make sure we don't leave gaps, even if you put things in within quotes. And when you bring them outside of the quotes, what could be the behavior of search engine in interpreting certain words that are not enclosed inside of the quoted or quotations. So Barbara, did you know that if you put single words within quotes, they are kind of enforced on search to find as a mandatory requirement?
I did
And we
not.
are not talking about search phrases. We're not talking about building phrases. We're talking about individual keywords.
No, I did not.
Okay, so now you know, and without getting confused on it, I want you to just pay attention to how we progressively go to certain queries which would play a role in defining certain words as emphasized words. And we will use those quotation marks extensively, so your concept will get clearer. Next, we had something of an example that sort of works around the convention that I mentioned earlier about using dashes or anything that is attached to defining numeric characters or numerics alongside certain notations and what they mean for the search. So in the second example, there was this series, it's called The Last Kingdom. It has got seasons running, and then you know that seasons have episodes, and so it continues. And to search for specific episode, you may want to define or somehow indicate what season of that play or that program you're talking about. So if the program was The Last Kingdom, obviously you put the 3 words within quotations. And one of the reasons that you put them all 3 in the quotes is because one of the words, which is the word da or the, that is effectively considered to be a stop word or word that is not a noun. It doesn't have a meaning to it. It is more like, you know, making it an adjective, or if there's an adverb or verb or something that is not considered to be, you know, a noun of some sort, in the easiest language I can say, that are considered to be stop words where search engine is not going to look at them. So that's going to only see Last Kingdom as 2 words together. Anyway, so The Last Kingdom is within quotes. And then we have used for finding the 6th episode in season 1 of this play, we have used 1-6. So from algebraic perspective or from mathematical perspective, obviously it sounds like as if we are asking the search, or we are doing some computation which is a minus sign, taking away 1 from 6, or subtracting 1 from 6 to make it 5. But that's not how it's going to play, especially with respect to, or with relationship to, what this term 1-6 has on its left and or on its right. So everything in our search queries is correlational, or you can say the context play a major part in defining what certain notations are used for, because the lexical intelligence, or you could say the semantics of how the machine learning is done, includes certain conventions which are not standard, or not are not mathematically incorrect, but they have to be correct in the sense of linguistics, or in the sense of expressing something in writing with words, because that's the only thing search engine understands. And the intelligence requires for the search to also know to in what reference those wordings are used, for it to make sense out of defining what those numerics, or in this case what 1-6 stands for. All right, so the Last Kingdom is a play, is a program, and that is using 1-6 as a symbol rather, and the search has the intelligence to understand that 1 stands for whole, or the whole pie, and anything that is next to it with a backslash or a dash or a dot means the part of that whole. So if whole is 1, it is considered to be a season, because you're talking about the Last Kingdom, a play or a program. So it is a season. 6 is the episode. Dash is 1 to consider together with 1. As I mentioned, it doesn't have any gap in between. So if it did have a gap, assuming, what would that imply? That means that it is now a mathematical equation or mathematical notation. Why? Because now dash is no longer a dash. It is now considered to be a minus sign, only because you have left a single character gap between 1 and 6. So without this, we are saying to find 1 of 6. And again, another version of it is 1 of 6 by putting a backslash and 6 under it, as if it is a division sign. So search still is considering it to be in season 1 and episode 6. If it was a 1.6, again the same principle. So it is already a programmed theorem that is running in and making it part of the intelligence that the search would assume to be having a meaning against whatever lies on its left, that is in your search query, and the right of it. So if it is wording or any other numerics or whatever else is relational to it is considered, that gives a true meaning to what you, plus not leaving a gap. Okay. In the third example, we have 3 terms: market research, industry reports, market research on demand. Here we have used 3 terms basically, and we want search to find all of them and not to give it a choice, because had we put the or in between like this, it would have been a choice for the search to find all or find any one of these out of the 3. And then you would notice that there is a word report at the very end. And our objective really is to ensure that the purpose of our search is fulfilled. And the purpose here is, from what I can perceive, even as human, is, when we write search queries, understanding of in what sense you have written it would be different when somebody else looks at it, because it's all subjective and it is all based on perception. And you can imagine how the search engine would have problems in interpreting that. So let's suppose I had put these 3 terms within quotes. My objective here is to find result pages that has all of these terms present there, because they are all within quotes. In a way, they are enforced. In a way, we are asking search to bring pages that has all 3 of them in a single result. or whatever comes to us in the first few snippets has to have 3 terms present. But then question yourself in a logical way where you would assume that those search pages or the index pages have should those pages have all 3 terms in there? Like logically, would a report or a page contain 3 terms together, like market research versus industry report versus market research demand? Logically, it won't. Like if I have to stick to a subject and be focused on what type of research reports I want, I would just make it very, very clear. And I would just write market research or maybe market research on demand, let's say. So linguistically, it is correct also. So maybe these terms and the first one would match, but perhaps the industry report would not be found on those pages. So what is the likelihood of finding all 3 on one page? Not only because you want it or you want different reports, but here you are instructing search to find something which has a less possibility of being found on the same page. May it be the subject, it could be a single subject which has to do with some technology, whereas you're asking the search to find another technology, which logically wouldn't make sense to have 2 type of information set in those content pages. So use your perception and imagination to come up with the right wordings. Anyway, in the sense in which I would use it is for market research, let's suppose, and perhaps use market research on demand as 2 that matches, and perhaps leave the industry report out, because that's how I think that it should be. So I wouldn't force the search to find it, but rather leave it as an option. So if the search finds it, good. If it doesn't, that's fine also, because it's not going to restrain it to bring irrelevant or irregular results or maybe null results. So you're opening up better possibilities by giving it a breather, by taking out certain terms which logically should not be there. So let's suppose I take it out and report the word. I don't have to repeat anymore. I would rather do it like this. So you see, this is one way of asking yourself where you're heading with the way you have phrased or put your search together, by looking at the wordings and making logic out of it, being more realistic of what can be found. In the fourth one, so far no problem understanding 1, 2, and 3. I'm assuming it is understood well and you don't have any questions, because the fourth one will depend on these 1, 2, and 3. Any question? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No questions.
So that means everyone is understanding and I'm explaining it the correct way. No ambiguities. Looks good, eh? I'm happy. Let's move on to fourth one. Now here is when we start shifting the quotations. We'll start shifting the quoted search terms and emphasize few that makes more sense and leave out others outside of the quotes. So this is a set of queries that we are assuming, or this, think of it as a practical approach right now. The way we like to actually do our own searches hands-on. So it is not something that's coming from fairy tales, or this is actually steps that we take. And this is a very short example. Let me see something. I just want to make sure my recording is happening. I don't want to make this mistake. It has happened to me a few times, and because I owe you the recordings, I feel a lot of responsibility. Sometimes I forget to even turn it on, and occasionally I click on the record button, and it doesn't, it doesn't get done, and I'm left without recording. So I'm just rechecking. Okay, so recording is being done. Coming back Fourth one, see, I want you to look at these A, B, C, D, and E. And I want you to pay attention to the number of results that are showing up. Just as a calculator or something that kind of acknowledges my, my suggestions or whatever I feel that comes back as kind of an indicator of some sort. In the numbers, there is hidden certain values of the quality or the precision that gets returned with your search. So first one says, no quotations, straightforward Steve Jobs important life lessons. Now let me tell you, important life lessons is kind of a title given to a speech that Steve Jobs gave somewhere, I think was in Stanford. And the idea here is, yes, Raymond, please go ahead. Raymond has a question, and I'd like to, for everyone to hear that. Your mic is open, Raymond?
Yes,
you can
please.
Speak out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's do that.
Thank you.
Everybody's listening. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I should have waited for you to finish, but I can ask you.
No, please go ahead.
Yeah, so how do we determine that a certain result constitute best results?
So one of the ways that we look at, see, it is all subjective and it is all relative to what your objective of search is. Supposing our search is to explore a certain type of information, or we are exploring a subject or a topic, and we are writing whatever we are writing or using that information for, assuming that that information is acceptable as a secondary source or coming from something that you don't have to prove to be original, or it's not a citation that you have to worry about. So given those test environments, or you could say that given those parameters as I described, we are going to be looking at the quality of information, because what we ask, we don't get exactly returned as an answer. Remember, the search engine is not interpreting your questions, or it is not comparing the question set that you have put inside of your search box that is similar to any other questions, or it's not matching the questions apples to apples. Okay, so given that shortcoming, you would assume that certain pieces of information will get returned with the search results that are coming back to you, and that piece gets collected with based on the relevance it has to the subject matter, which you put and set aside. While you're searching that, you find a link or you find a clue that would give you an indication that could be further information or more information available by clicking on the second link to explore further. So that is how one process goes. Second process is for you to just finish up that search, knowing that there is no more area for you for your interest. You would then break out of that, and then you would rephrase again another search query that would complete the rest of the information or the part that you couldn't get back. So that becomes a second process. A third process is that when you are getting your results, you are also getting some clues or indication of certain wordings that are bringing back results which you may be interested in, but it's not quite the same. So how much of that information or how much of that word is relevant? And then the fourth approach is, if certain irrelevant wordings are showing or coming back to you in your search results that has no association with your original intent of search, then you have to adopt a process of elimination, removing the false positive, which means get rid of those wordings to get out of the clutter that could clean up or clear up the way to get more precision results. So because it is a process and it is based on your approach that needs to be defined and has to be organized so that it becomes a process rather than a single event, you have to be the best judge to figure out if you are heading the right direction, or if your direction is incorrect, then you have to assess the quality of your search results. And previously, people used to think, and still it is a notion, and based on your question, I would be able to answer it with better, with the better quality of answer when we go through A through E. And this is exactly going to answer your question. And the reason I say that is because previously, and I'd like to continue, I'm sorry that I just get carried away sometimes, a little bit off, but coming back to the number of search results, people used to think that the more results you get, the more inaccuracies you are encountering. For obvious reason, is because when there is the wordings you have used that are bringing enormous amount of results, it means that you have to do more scrutiny of those results. You have to filter them out more effort. In a way, it becomes more difficult, and the quality of results would vary. When the number of results are less, it means your results are coming more accurate because it is more precise due to less number of results coming. So in a way, you can assume that it is more focused search results. Logically speaking, I mean that's the best you can do with something that is totally out of control like Google. So between the numbers is one way of figuring out, but then the best way is that you get about optimum amount of results, which means not a whole lot, but not far less than what you would get as a choice, but rather something in between based on your assessment of quality of pages that are getting returned back to you. So the quality is more important depending on the objective of your search. If the citations or your references or the quality of data or the origin of data is more important because of the accuracy you require based on the nature of your search, then of course you will have to really scan through the certain or you have to design your search so that it is coming from authentic sources. So all sorts of information that you can imagine that would get returned back to you. It's exactly similar to how you would enter into a library, look at some books, you open them up, you don't find any solution or any exact, especially if it is scientific, which means it is to do with discovery of something, which also means that you're creating another set of knowledge. If it is scientific, assuming, then it means that you would have to use all different point of views and perspectives. So depending on the type of research, you would still be doing exactly same thing as you would do in the libraries. In research papers, I have my favorites. I mean, I wouldn't just take a research paper on the face value. I mean, I've had cited certain research papers and turned out that there is someone named X, Y, and Z whose only job is to write research papers and for money. Not being the speciality of this person, but he's been cited like 20 times. He's even in Wikipedia. In many ways, he's everywhere. So to think of that as a citation that made its way into research paper is considered authentic enough. It's again subjective. It is up to you to filter out things, cross match it, double check it, see if the journals who is commented on it, if it is acceptable, if the societies or organizations have committees that have vouched for it or have vetted it already. So all that comes into play at the layers and at the levels where eventually the decision is up to you whether to accept it as someone who is doing the research or not accept it. And it is no different in the search engine, except that the best we could do is, first of all, to begin with, to find the right information, right sources. So, and then the second part comes where you have to do your own vetting and you have to find it for yourself. So have I answered some the question, Raymond? Your questions are usually, impactful. So I hope for the good of everyone, it makes sense. Unless is something more specific, I can answer.
No, I think all that I can say is that you've been so great, and I appreciate your patience in responding to my question. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're most welcome. In fact, I'm putting aside some time to get lessons from you. Remember, you're going to teach us about the education part and tell us how we have to improve and what are the things that are coming up, what are the latest out there, because that's your specialty and you are the professor. So I should humbly ask you to coach us, or for the good of everyone, perhaps you can give us some time as we find that time between lessons. So definitely it's going to come back to you shortly. I'm telling you that, Raymond. All right. So there's going to be one day when I will ask you for a payback on this.
Okay.
All right. So A, B, C, D, C, and D. The first one, A, Steve Jobs' important life lessons, 3,860,000 results. What do you say to that? And did you notice, by the way, there's an overwhelming number of results. Obviously, these are all real pages. Index says that is bringing these counts to us. But when we get to see the number of pages that are shown to us as users, maybe they'll show us 3,000, 4,000, or maybe, few SERPs that turns up. What happens to rest of that information? Who has that? And why are we missing out on that? Now, that is a question I was finally able to answer, but we'll leave it as a thought that we will catch up on later when we get done or find some time. So anyway, so it's an enormous amount of results and it's ridiculous, honestly. So to say that we found something to do with Steve Jobs' important life lessons, fine, but there is a problem here. Problem is that when we start to put some of these within quotes, we get less answers. So, or less results rather. So if it is less results as less or as low as 170,000 versus 3,860,000, what does that imply? What does that say to us? I mean, use your own logic and just tell me. I mean, I'm curious to know, how would you assess that? Why would it drop so low? I'll tell you why. And again, we are still trying to figure out how the keywords versus the search phrases returns or gets interpreted by the search engine, because the big guy, the one who is serving these pages, to whom we are putting forth our requests, has got a brain of its own. And knowing how the search engine behaves or thinks of or solves the problem is what we need to get to eventually, so that we can create more, more effective search queries, and for the search engine, or make it easy for search engine to respond with better answers. So one of the brain sets, or how the brain is of that search engine, is that when you don't give it a restriction, when you leave the words scattered, when you put them without enclosing them within quotes, or when two words together are not considered high ranking or popular, or when two words one next to another don't make linguistic sense, is all played with the programmed algorithms of the search engine that dictates and says that priority or the prime objective of search engine is to bring as many results as possible. So you've made the search engine extremely happy by opening up all these as individual words that search engine can play with and send you 3,860,000 results. Now you're happy because search engine is giving you so much information, right? But then again, like Raymond said, how do we know the quality is good? Because, you know, what are we supposed to be doing with that many results? Not good. So the search engine's second objective is to find, as a default action, to find all of these words together, even without quotation marks. First instance is to find them together as a long single search phrase without being put in the quotation marks. I'm telling you what really happens. So don't ask me if it is outside of quotes, why would search engine do that? It would do that because it is going to try to please you as much as it can do. And second thing that it's doing right now is to make sure all the words are delivered in the same sequence first as a default action, or they get delivered in groups, like some of these together, like important life lessons. 3 of them could be treated as separate set of words. Being more popular, it becomes a sort of an obligation for the search engine to excitedly just bring it because it's available, it's popular, it is cached, it is available in the closest indexes that are held in the data center. So it is sending it over to you as priority, as high rank, leaving out Steve Jobs. But at the same time, it is also considering the important life lesson as 3 words together because they are important only because it is used by Steve Jobs in the speech or in an address that eventually ended up without any topic or without any specific topic for the speech. It was given a topic or given a name, important life lessons. So that's what made it popular search term with reference to Steve Jobs. So even if we don't put it within quotations, you might turn around and say, you know, that you told us that unless it is in quoted, it won't be treated or it wouldn't be recognized. But on the contrary, it would be because the search thinks that it has some association with Steve Jobs, and that's what made it popular. So it would act that way. Now, we want to be more sure or doubly sure. We want to make sure that if it wasn't Steve Jobs, it could be something else. But just to give it a sort of, or give it, or imagine it as if we want the important life lesson to be treated as a title of some sort. And Steve Jobs is the person who is already well known. So no need to put first and the second name within quotes. Okay, so don't take it literally, think of it as an example. All right, so Steve Jobs is well known. If I was my choice, I wouldn't even put it within quotes, but there would be occasions here or examples as in D that I've put them within quotes. But that's just to give you an idea of how you can play with the quotes to, if there was any other names that you want to emphasize on, so you can put them within quotes. Steve Jobs outside important life lessons. So 170,000. Now we have set these 3 as together and in the same sequence without giving search engine more opportunities to join these words as loose independent words to be combined in any way or in any combination as search engine pleases. So that the search now is going to look for these 3 words and you would get less results as 170,000. Probably satisfactory versus 3,860,000. So more precision. In the third instance, in C, we've got the word Steve Jobs important life lessons put within quotes as a single search phrase. Now we did a major mistake here. We did get better results, as I mentioned, less results, more accuracy, more precision. But do you think seriously that getting 5 results is satisfactory for someone based on, you know, what gets produced, and because it is only 5 results? But what if 5 results are not accurate? They are less. They could be considered precise if you consider the numbers, because it is only 5 compared to 170. But are they good? Are they good quality? You know, would those be acceptable? So that is a dilemma. In my opinion, C is not a good query. 5 results I got were not satisfactory. Why? Because when you look at linguistically how those words play a part as being considered in a single phrase, you would see that there is an error of how it is phrased. Would you be using in one sentence something in your search that says Steve Jobs important life lessons? it looks like it is like a book title, or it is not, like two different separated terms which identifies important life lessons separately as the title of a speech. It doesn't. It looks like it is one continuous sentence, which may not be matched, which may not be present the way it is phrased in those index pages. So that should be the consideration, and that will make a difference between getting better quality results or not. So you have to look at how you phrased your wordings. Would it be part of a sentence, or could be two different set of terms that may have other wordings in between? I would say that it shouldn't be like one long sentence. Okay, now let's look at D. Steve Jobs is put in within quotes so that the first name and the last name remains intact the way it is spelled and said. Second is important life lessons is something that is separate title, and I would obviously like to separate that so that it doesn't become like a one long sentence as in C. Third thing I did is I added a context. I added a context to emphasize that it is considered or the important life lessons title is considered with reference to a speech that Steve Jobs made. So my approach of quotation, how I'm going to put quotation or use quotation would be to put these two, Steve Jobs important life lessons in quotations, leave speech out, because who knows that a speech is substituted by address, or some, if it was some other wordings that can be used by the search engine, or give the search engine the option to find a better wording. It would allow being outside of the quotes to be changed, or somehow add something else to it, to the word speech. So it is not restrained or restricted in any way. So it is open, yet it gives some meaning. So in a subtle way, it is telling search engine that it has to do with speech. I got 51,700 results, which is far more than just 5 results. But here, when I write best results or best quality, is just a matter of the quality of results I'm getting, or if whatever came back to me has a reference and exact sort of outcome that I wanted, and the quality of information is there. So D for me is the best results. In the last one, just look at the last one. I wrote Steve Jobs' speech. Okay, so what matters here is my singular and plural, job or jobs or speech. Like these 3 words are again little bit loose. I get obviously more results because these 3 words can be mismatched or can be matched in any way. Speech can be attached to any other word, doesn't have to be after the word jobs. Or jobs could be considered job, as in jobs, the kind of jobs we get. Steve may be considered separate. So what's going to happen is there's going to be erratic combination of these wordings outside of quotes. And as a result, we get 187,000 results coming back to us. Now with this, after this, we're going to do example 5. And once we do example 5, you should have a good handle on using quotation marks. And that's what we need, because it's going to take you a long way when we are going to create complex search queries where words matter. Reshuffling of the words, emphasis of the words is going to play a large part besides just placement of the search operators. So let's just take 5 minutes break here. Okay. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Feel free. And then after 5 minutes, I will return and we will continue and finish up with 5. So see you. Take a break, everyone. See you. Hi, I'm back, everyone. So let me know if you can hear me and you can see my screen. I always ask these questions. So I just need one person to tell me that everything is okay. All good? All right, Monique, thank you. All right, all is good. So too much information, lot for you to absorb. But it is, one of those things where we make a lot of mistakes. We get to know what quotations are for, but the use of them sometimes requires, extraordinary information, because it's obviously a skill set now. It has to be recognized as such, and that's what we strive for, and exactly. And therefore, we definitely want this to be considered as a independent sort of a skill set that needs to be recognized and acknowledged, and should be part of the job description. These days, the kind of job descriptions we find that is attached to doing online research is just market research. That's pretty much how everybody is describing the job description. So it's not like a formal job description these days, but eventually it'll have to be considered. Um, and Raymond, in your sort of teaching, what do you teach exactly, or the class that you just gave? What were the topics? Just so that we can learn few things.
Oh,
Are you there, Raymond?
yes, I'm here. So
Tell us. Yeah.
I teach research methods and techniques. And today we touched on transferability, validity, data collection, sampling strategies. Yeah, and I did a section for a one-on-one that took long a little bit. That's why I was late. Yes.
So these are considered traditional research methods, which is what is taught for anyone in the knowledge management area, or for MLIS. I guess that's the degree course, eh? For
Yes,
librarians and so on.
yes,
So,
they are in a graduate program. All of them today, the class, all of them are teachers. And I had only 17 were able to attend today.
I see. And what is their background like? What are your students? You know, basically, what is their line of specialities or background or profession or
Yeah,
whatever?
we have psychology students, we have special education students, I have teacher education students, and a lot of them are teachers, and I have behavior analysts. Yeah, and I have only one student in IT.
I see.
Yeah.
So it is, really strictly teaching methods of.
I try
Uh,
this course, I try as much as possible to expose them to a variety of techniques, and yeah, so that when you get out, you'll be able to apply in the field.
So when we are talking about research, there is a involvement besides the methodology for collecting information. There is a dilemma of finding the sources of information, or finding online information, because not many people have time anymore to go to the libraries and pick up those books, especially those that are not in electronic format.
Yeah.
It is just easier to go online and find those sources. So how much of validity, of how much of importance do you give or teach your students for collecting online information, or the relevance of collecting information that is out there?
You know,
Um,
this is why I even joined this course. So I'm learning a lot. We haven't gone far, but I tell you, I've been learning a lot. And we have a database. I think it's a good one. I've been teaching in several universities, but I think the University of Maine database has a lot of research articles. And I personally have a database that I introduced to them today because they need to search for primary research articles, 6 of them. And most of them seem to have a hard time locating the articles. Sometimes I do one-on-one to help them locate. But I tell you, this basic search operators that you have introduced to us, I did use them last week for someone who needed to search for 6 articles. And it was very helpful. In fact, I started with doing it with my name. I didn't get any response, any results. Yeah, yeah. So I tell you, I'm very, very happy here in this course. Yeah.
So you obviously feel that there is a need and there is a gap and there is a pain,
Yes.
which is because, you know, people are lacking these skill sets.
Yes.
And then there was a question that came to us as a research, and that question sort of was a reminder for me, and I thought I'd share it with you as well, of what is really missing from with all of us that are now in the class today. I'm sure they would agree. The question was that how are we supposed to how are we supposed to find out what set of information is considered relevant, and how do we verify or understand or interpret news sources or the social media impact based on the kind of information that is, let's say, is really vandalizing the internet by interest groups. So when it comes to real verification or using information in the articles and looking at some of the video clips and some of the other information that is flowing freely in social media, especially in consideration of citizens journalism, it has become very important to find out what is false and what is reliable information. So the question was that how people respond and how much of that information they are believing in or they're considering as reliable. And I found, and once we got our research done and the questions we asked, we did surveys and everything, we found that more than 90% of the people are believers, first-time believers in what they see or what is fed to them. So that misinformation or intentional misinformation is a dilemma, which is obviously directly connected to internet information flow. We are now not talking about academics. So getting out of academics, someone who is a writer, someone who is doing some research on certain issues or social issues or things of that sort, I don't think that there is a solution or outright solution. It's not just collecting the information, it's now become a reliability issue, which is definitely going to have a very profound effect and a deep impact on decision making and for changing mindsets and so on. So this propaganda mechanism is something that we are all we don't have a solution to that. And even if there is a question in your class which requires for you to answer this, I'm sure you'll find it very difficult to come up with an answer, except that you can say that use this tool or that tool, or nobody has too much time for it. And people like to only believe in what they perceive or the preconceived notions they have, or they have made up their mind, or they are a believer in something. So they are the first gullible people who would actually take that information on its face value because they believe or they think in that direction. So yeah, I mean, it requires a lot of effort. Yeah, you cannot undo what is said and what is delivered. It's very hard to change someone's mind. Anyway, so I thought, we could just talk a little bit over some other issues, and just for you to enlighten us a little bit. So let's just continue with our slides. We have to finish the course, but at the same time, like I said, I'm creating the search queries, which are actually situational queries, assuming certain situations, and then building those query strings so they are ready-made, and you can just look at them and use them in your research and so on. So that has been a process, a tedious and slow process, and requires a lot of thought for me to just sit and do it. That's why I'm a little bit behind, but I'm almost there. So that piece I am really excited even myself to deliver to you, and sooner or later, or maybe in a week or so, in fact not even by the end of this week, I've given myself a target, I'll get that ready for you. So excellent, agreed. So everybody agrees that this is the industry problem. Anyway, who knows, we'll solve it one day. Maybe the machines will become really very smart, and they would be able to catch it or nip it in the bud, as they say. Okay, so let's look at example 5. Now, this is something that you would probably appreciate and would want to make sure that such mistakes are avoided, where we have to ask a question. Because search engine is not answering, it's not looking at the words as if you're posing it as a question. It is very difficult for us to make the search believe as if they have to answer it in a way that it is really matching the question itself. One of the intelligent things that search engine is doing these days, which I thought it wasn't as important, but because the topic has come up, maybe I can just give you a quick example of how the search engine is trying to overcome this barrier of questions being asked so it can be matched to similar questions. This is a slide that will show you something that the new algorithms are incorporating these days, and very soon you will see the result of it. You can see here that we have 3 questions. One says, how are you? The other one is a different question, how old are you? And then the third says, what is your age? So between these 3 questions, it's obvious the first one is different. The question number 2 and question number 3 is the same, except that it has been worded differently. And because the search engine can only read through the words, not understanding the question format, but at least understanding the answers. Let's suppose previously someone had asked, how old are you? And someone else is asked, what is your age? But the search returned these 2 answers, for example, and this is an analogy. It's just a sort of, you have to consider it in the conceptual way, not in a literal way. So if the answers for both the question 2 and 3 are the same, they are considered semantically similar. Semantics, as you know, is the science of intelligence, between making relationship between the words and understanding it in a more conversational sense. So that is semantics. Now, semantically similar means that because the answer is the same, or something that gets returned with reference to these type of wordings used in these sequences, which can be different, yet their answers are the same. So they are semantically similar, and therefore answer to the question being matched to the different versions of questions will bring you the same result, meaning that it has another way of understanding that you are asking a same question, even though it's worded differently. So this is how the search engine is now using, another way of recognizing it as a question and then bringing the answers back. So for now, it's since we are dealing with the queries right now, and we'd like the search engine to recognize certain wordings as a question. This is what we are going to do. Now, see, I've lost the slide. It should have remembered the number. What was it? It was down here. hang in there. Yeah. In example 5, we can we know that a question mark is a stop sign and it is not considered by the search. So what we do is we emphasize this to be present in our search results that gets returned in the instance of the first query. A says internet research, and then we have put the question mark within quotes. What does it mean? It means that the search needs to find these two words, but with reference to this, if there is a question mark somewhere on that content page, it should bring it or return it back in the search results. Even though internet research could have been used in any sort of question form with other words around it, or it could have been phrased different ways, but as long as it has these two words in there, or somewhere there on that content page there is a question mark. An emphasized question mark means that it may have a possibility to be attached somewhere with internet research, and with the imagination that there could be a search phrase with reference to a question. We would use this form, or at least try this, to see if a question part comes in that has to do with internet research. Alternatively, we could put internet research together, but this means that these two words remain intact, and it is better than A, because in the second, in B, you could see these two words would remain intact together with reference to any other words that's surrounding it, or it is before or after it. Yet the question mark should be part of it, not necessarily posed in the same phrase that contains these internet research, but at least there is a possibility that this question mark would somehow be present in a manner of a question where internet research is used. In C, we can use words like what. What do you know already? It's not considered as, it is a stop word, first of all. So search engine is not going to entertain it. It's not something that search would pay attention to. So C may not be the correct way of putting it together. However, internet research question mark enclosed inside of the quotation would work really well only if the last two words before the question mark are in the same sequence and set in the question in the same way where it ends with the question mark. So there is another possibility. We're just looking at possibilities here. We are forcing something, trying out few options. Then in D, we have stop words, but we want search engine to ensure that these words somehow are present in those pages. So we are going to put each of them inside of the quotation marks. So here we are not using quotation marks to create any search phrase, but rather for emphasizing that these three words have to be returned in the search snippets or be part of that content page that's been queried in relationship to internet research with the question mark. So the likelihood of finding what, where, how, or posing a question or finding a page that has internet research as a question on account of using any of these three with the question mark and quotation enclosed, we might be able to get better results. Still, I feel that there should be one more query that would improve on this. And what could that be? Let's see. If I had to create another one that could be even better than D, I would do so that again we are removing a kind of a restraint where the possibility of all three to be present together may be low compared to giving it a choice where any of these would work alongside internet research and a question mark. So I think E is better. Okay. Second thing, and since this has happened, I'm going to again tell you that these are some of the errors that inadvertently we are prone to it only because it's such a small quotation. And you see right here, the quotation mark, this one is remained open. It's not closed. It's only because when we are moving words or we're putting one next to another and putting any of them within quotes, the next one would automatically somehow attach. It's just the typo situation. The typing, we make this mistake because there's a conflict in how the typeset is done when we are writing it quickly and putting these within quotes, that one of the quotation marks might remain open, and this would create a problem for you. Okay, so here I've noted that while I was separating it and putting the vertical bar, see where when I put the vertical bar here, somehow it turned the other way and opened up as so we are going to correct this. See, now it is correct. It's now inverted. So inverted open is here and inverted close is here. Okay, so just be mindful of that. Time moves so fast. Did we do primary keywords, head modifiers? I think we did that, eh? You know what primary keywords are? We ran this slide or some form of it, I guess. You see, in between when I finished up my previous batch and when all of you started, there wasn't enough gap in between. So somehow I get mixed up on what I taught. Did you remember if we did primary keyword, secondary, head, modifiers, tails? Do you recall? I'm sorry to ask such a stupid question, but it's for me, I just don't want to repeat anything, it's been taught.
I don't remember, but I've missed some classes.
Okay.
I don't remember it either.
All right. Okay, so it's then we are going to start with certain concepts. These are basic ones, but they are very important for anyone who is doing research work, mainly using internets, pretty much in group settings, or where in our case, like we have to delegate certain searches. We don't have to do all of them ourselves, so we need to delegate that work. And for that reason, we have to organize through some papers to identify certain words that they have to use so that they don't get carried away, or there is no ambiguities in what terms to search for. So we have to define the primary keywords that cannot be changed, differentiate between secondary and primary. So those set of wordings are delegated and given in writing to whoever is going to do research for us. We also go a little bit more deep if the search requires a very specific, very niche, or very scientific terminologies we are using, and we are adamant about dissecting those search queries into specific words that may be changed in their order, or they may require to identify between those terms what are the heads or the kind of words that cannot be changed or would be considered as most important, and then comes the less important, and then the least important. The less important are modifiers. The least important is what we call tail words. So that's just it's giving you an idea. Now we're going to look at them more close. Let's see what are primary keywords and secondary keywords. So first thing first is that I don't know if you know what the difference is between the primary, and Raymond knows this, like he knows those are the very, very fundamental, like primary source of information. What are your sources that should be considered primary? Primary meaning the kind of sources that you collect firsthand by directly interacting with whoever is producing that data or is responsible for giving you direct information. So that is considered primary. Your personal diaries, the kind of information that you collect through interviews or surveys directly from human subject particularly. So those are direct primary information. That means they're not altered, or they are to be considered as authentic and original. Then there are secondary information sources, which could be from the books, magazines, journals, and elsewhere. So between primary and secondary informations, we make a distinction based on the the reliability factor of information that we eventually have to analyze or do work upon. So when we are using primary keywords, we are using those type of keywords that are the set of information which you cannot substitute, exchange, or you cannot do away with, or you cannot, or it would change the sense in which you are linguistically, you are expressing your search phrases by removing those words. So those are primary words, primary keywords. So primary data or primary source of information versus primary words, there are two different concepts, but I'll show you how they will connect with each other. Now, the primary keywords are shown here as 3 keywords, which are in different fonts, as you could see following my arrow: internet, research, industry. So what is our objective, or what is our intent? The intent is to find research that has to do with internet, research, industry. Internet, research, industry, 3 words together cannot be disturbed, cannot be changed, because by removing any one of these, or by combining 2 together, leaving out any one, or changing the order of this, will have an impact of changing or giving the wrong intent, or passing on the wrong set of instructions to the search engine. By removing the word internet, what are we left with? Let's say research industry. But wouldn't you think that research industry is different in the sense of how internet has nothing to do with research industry, or research industry could be traditional research that Raymond is teaching, like population sampling and things of that sort, that may not necessarily have anything to do with the internet. So that's going to kill the entire intent or meaning in which it is expressed. Removing word like research would mean that we are dealing with 2 words, internet and industry. So that is pretty much identified with information technology, communication, and that. So, and removing industry would not reveal the information about the industry itself, but rather the search would think that you are looking for the meaning of what internet research is, or definitions, or you're using it in different sense of how they are attached to other words. So industry is not replaceable. What I'm saying is removing any of these words is going to be a problem. Moving the sequence of this word would be a problem. So all 3 of them will become mandatory anchor words or absolute words that we can call primary keywords. And primary keywords is what needs to be defined. So the researcher that you're handing over the research to is not going to add any other word. I'm sorry, not to add, but rather not change a sequence of these words, or not replace any of these 3 words. So they become absolute. In the secondary keywords, you could see that the intent of, we've got these 1 through 6 different versions of how the secondary keywords play a part. But now the objective of the search is little different, as you can tell from the sequence of different ways in which we've expressed it, that a research requires looking for training or certification that has to do with internet research, purely internet research, where the word internet and research are considered primary. The word that is in purple color right here, like training or certification or education, are contacts or additional words, or the kind of words that you can call secondary keywords. Because here, if I identify internet research to be primary keywords, my research would dictate that there is no way that you're going to change any of these. And if these 2 words needs to be changed in any way, then they need an authorization, or someone has to approve for the search to accept or used or change the primary keyword. So they are going to remain intact. Training could be one substitute considered a secondary keyword, certification another, education, and so on. Unless you come to number 5, where you return and say that these 2 words, like internet and research, your primary words are not producing exactly what you need. So can you give us a direction so that primary, or permission to change primary keywords? And if there is a possibility, I would say that instead of internet, try web, or try search instead of research. Again, when someone is doing the search and not finding the solution or not the right pages, they would turn back and say that, look, internet is producing or suggesting certain other words, or the search results are bringing alternatives or synonyms to this, and maybe we ought to try these. So that suggestion would play a part in someone who is authorizing it, primary keywords, to make that change. So here I've made the change and I've used web search training, and incidentally it produced better results. The web research training and web search training were extensively used by or considered more popular, and therefore better quality results. More articles are written using these three words in the sense in which you originally wanted to be obtained for your research reasons. Okay, so this is primary and secondary. Now the other concept is going more granular and breaking down your terms, especially if it is scientific research or something that is really finicky about the nomenclature or exact phrase or how you are putting those together. Then we use something called a head, a modifier, and tail, which means now we are going to dissect those words that we used previously, three in this case, internet research and certification, into three different types. One we call head, which means that it is an absolute or primary word. Okay, I use the word primary even though it shouldn't be used in the second sort of in the way that I'm supposed to explain it, but for creating it, making it less confusing, let's assume that primary keywords and head are more or less the same because they are considered absolute. Now the second set, which is called modifier, is the word next to internet, and that's research. Modifier means that you can replace it with any other word if you'd like, but but ensuring that it does not change the meaning, which means it could be a synonym of some sort, replaceable, or scientifically it could be an alternate. Like if I use the word coral bleaching, for instance, I found that it was the most appropriate word when I started using, or initially when I used coral discoloration, I couldn't get the quality of results I needed. And I was getting confused. Why am I not getting exactly, more information? So I looked up and I checked more, and I figured that instead of using coral discoloration, if I used coral bleaching, I get better results. So that bleaching and discoloration could be a modifier. All right, it came to my mind, so I just expressed that as an example. Third is in green color, as you could see, this is called a tail, or the word which reinforces or is a supportive word that gives a better meaning or better context to the head and the modifier. By the way, think of modifier as a secondary keywords, or even certification as secondary. So just so that it gets connected with in the flow of things as we mentioning primary. So research and certification could be a secondary keyword. So where modifier can be changed, but certification is something that is a context purely supporting the head and the modifier. It is not the same as tail. Why? Because tail has another function besides being the context. Tail words are defined as the kind of words that you can add to, or you can add as many tail words as you want without changing the word internet, and by slight or subtle change in modifier. Yet the tails are what you play with mostly to give it more context and get better results. The lengthier the search phrase or the number of keywords you use, the more expressive it is, obviously, because more words means more help for the intent translation, right? So when you add more and more words and becomes longer, it is what we call more expressive form or more expressive search query in terms of words that you use. And also it is given a name, and that is called a narrow search or short tail search. When I say apply a short tail search query, sorry, it is a long tail when it has more words to it. When I say apply a long tail, it means add more tail words to it and make it more expressive. If I say make it a broad search, it means less words and more search results, because now it is restrained to let's say 2 or 3 words, which can be combined in many different ways, and more results will come. So it is a broad search query, and it is called short tail. That's about it. There's nothing more complex to that. This
Harry,
chart
can I ask a question,
yes,
please?
go ahead. Yes, please.
On the
Go
previous
ahead.
one, does that mean that if we change the order and say research internet certification, then you're saying that research would become the head word?
Yeah, you can move headwards. No, it's even if you move the position of it, let's say research becomes the first word.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it will prevent you from calling it the head word or giving it an absolute position which should not be changed. So you definitely don't want to consider the head, the modifier, or the tail based on the sequence in which it is set, because linguistics is very funny, I mean, the sense of words or the way you express it or the way you write it, obviously it's a matter of choice, and the choice, however, does not mean that emphasis of certain words that fall in between a sentence or in the earlier stages of some phrase has got more significance or more importance. What will be significant is for you to identify from amongst those wordings as which set is considered head and which is a modifier and tail.
Okay, got it.
So having said that, you would see, and this is only a matter of convenience so that it could be understood by everyone, without causing any confusion. So it is the shortest possible way of explaining it, and simplest also, using at least 3 words that can identify these 3 different elements of dissection or granular way of expressing which is head, modifier, and a tail. This is probably going to explain a little bit more on short tail or long tail. When you have these 3 words, as in the first of all, these are 2 sections. Basically, the one on the left says broad search. So think of it as a heading for the illustration on the left, and then the one on the next side is long tail, and we are not touching the long tail, so just focus on the left first, then we move to long tail. In the short tail or the broad search, we call it, we are using 3 words, and these 3 words we are considering short tail only because there's very short number. There's only 3 words that is used as minimum to identify these 3 elements, head, modifier. So these are broad search, not many words, meaning the search has to work extra hard, bring more outcomes, less expressive, less context, and therefore more search results. Okay, so that is short tail or broad search. So here we are with the broad search, 3 different wordings we have used. The head in this case, internet, modifier, tail, we used earlier. And then look down in the second row, you see that we have combined now internet, research together and called it head. Okay, so the idea here is for you to know that there could be more than one word that combines together and make it or clump it together as a head. So these 2 are considered head, supposing, and then the burden or the shift is for the modifier to be moved further, and that modifier is no longer attached to research. That research now is dropped from being a modifier, and what used to be tail previously has now become a modifier. So this is how your movement or the wordings would move. I use this quite a lot to give out the assignments or give out my research or to my colleagues or whoever is to work on it. So I hand over, sometimes I say 2 words, sometimes I have 3 words, sometimes modifier comes earlier before because it is part of a phrase that needs to be separated between head and the modifier. So sequence of it doesn't matter, but what matters or the concept is that you have to identify head as primary or something that should not be disturbed. Modifier can be something that can be changed. So instead of certification, it could be training. You can use it because it is a modifier. You can modify it without changing the meaning. Modifier means change without changing the meaning, or it has a limited capacity to be substituted. All right, so it's not free for all. Then the tail part, which is going to be something that I will show in the next one, in the long tail. I just, up till now, you only think of it as a broad surge, short tail, in other words, and the movement of how you can keep shifting modifiers head and tail. You can keep doing that. Long tail simply means over here, same example taken little further. Even though it is a short example, it's not really truly long tail in the sense that I would consider 5 or more words in long tail, but here we are using 4, or basically literally 3 of them. So internet research, again coming from here, primarily certification, modifier, and certification now, because it has been shifted into a modifier zone. The extra word that you're going to add, or any other context you're going to give, you may give 10 different tail words or 20, doesn't matter. What matters is that a modifier is approved and head is approved by you, so that you are not dragged in wrong directions, or sort of this research does not waste time and you're still focused, because this is your objective. The tail is what you play with. So course is become now a tail. So being a long text or long search phrase, or having more context attached to it, will make it long tail, and it would allow for the search to bring more precise results. It will be less results, number of results returned, compared to broad search. I think this should be clear, eh?
Yes, thank you.
And then we've got differentiation between short tail and long tail. It is just descriptive. You just have to read through it. I mean, it's just logical differences. It's a common sense. I wouldn't want to waste too much time on this. I wish we could have done proximity search. Proximity search is very important. I would suggest that the next time, if you all can make it, the same way that you have showed up today, it will be really nice. These are, the days, or some of the things, as you can tell, it's very, very important, because they're, in my book, they're considered fundamentals. So if the fundamentals are good and you're really on top of this, it would be so much easier for us to actually design the queries. Query designing has now become a myth, hasn't it? Like, it's been so long, but we haven't even started building those queries. So, but they're not far off, okay? I just have to finish up the proximity search. This is the last leg of getting the conceptual understanding. And after that, I can promise you, it will be nothing but hands-on practical approach to developing certain search queries, especially when we are using advanced search. In fact, I'm not going to do a lot or spend a lot of time on basic Boolean search operators. We will use it together with advanced search, so they are sort of covered all in one go. You wouldn't lose anything by getting directly into the deep waters, because you have the lifeline, you have the floater. So don't worry about it. But based on the time that we are given, and considering how much we have to cover, and also, most importantly, what needs to be focused in learning effective search queries, we will just get directly into the waters. When we start next week, starting the 3rd week of our course, we would start with advanced search queries. But like I said, if you're not there in the advanced search queries, still okay, because we have plenty of material or plenty of references for you to catch up. But if the basics are set proper and you are with me along these next few days or next few classes, rest of it, I'm not going to especially force you to stick around. But that's all I can say. And with this, I'm going to conclude our today's lecture. And if there is any question or anything else that I can answer, please let me know. I've answered the question about the recording bit. And for the recording we have today, I will send you the link. So essentially what you will have is a recording for, let me get back to it. Do you need a recording for this again, like for tomorrow? Let me break out of this first. Why isn't this breaking? Let me see. So I'm giving you, who is it that wanted? Okay, so I was speaking to Barbara and Michelle. Michelle, you there? You've been awfully quiet. I didn't hear your voice. Even Denise is not there. Just checking to see if you ladies
Hi.
are. Who was this again? Sorry.
Michelle.
Okay, Michelle. Finally, you spoke. Eh? I didn't hear from you for a while.
This is Denise. I'm here.
Okay, Denise, that's good. That's reassuring because I don't want you to miss these classes at least. How was it for you so far?
Good.
Denise, any questions?
No,
Was it
no
too much
questions.
information?
No, so far I understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm happy because that makes my day when everybody's on the same page. How about you, Michelle? Any feedback so far? How is it going for you?
Good. I was able to catch up, so I'm feeling pretty good. I was able to listen to the Saturday recording, so I'm feeling like I'm caught up.
Excellent, because you're very busy with your business and all that that you're doing. I'm sure that keeps you really occupied.
Yes.
And it's a lot to catch up with. How about the recordings? Did you send me an email as well on recorded lecture that you wanted? Or?
I had originally, I forgot to cancel Monday. So when I went in and I populated the new schedule, I actually missed the fact that we didn't have a class Monday. So I was a little worried. And I
know because and I told you that we don't have a class on the 7th. That was,
and I was very relieved because I was able to get it done. So thank you.
Excellent.
And sorry I missed the fact that we didn't have class yesterday.
Not an issue, Michelle, just that if you miss on, like, okay, so coming back to what is available for us, like immediately before we get the permanent link, as I mentioned. So we've got, I don't know if you were able to make it on the 4th and the 5th, which was Saturday. I didn't see you on Saturday. So we have a recording for Saturday. I am not sure if you were there on 4th. We do have a recording for the 4th, but it's probably going to get deleted. So do you know if you wanted one for the 4th?
No, I'm good. I was there the 4th. I missed the 5th, but I've listened to that recording. So I'm all caught up. All
right, so fine. Barbara, did you want the one for the 5th or the 4th?
Yes, please.
Or both?
Well, both of them would be good. I just missed part of the 4th, but I missed the 5th entirely. So I would just have to catch up on the first part of the 4th.
Okay, can you catch up as soon as possible? Because I think we may have to let go of the recording on the 4th. Okay. 5th is going to be there. Today's recording is going to stick around for until the next class. That's going to be on the 10th.
Okay. And again,
so
you're going to email those recordings, is that correct?
Yes, so we'll be able to get everything that we covered from 31st up until the 8th available to you on the 10th.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Thank you.
So the only caveat here is that the 4th, the recording on the 4th might not be available. So if you have to do it, you can catch up with it as soon as you can. And then the 5th is going to be around, and the one we did today is going to be around until the 10th. In fact, everything will be available on the 10th. So it's just the 4th, so no confusion there. Now, moving forward on the 3rd and the 4th week, which is where we have 4 classes each every week. It's going to be exactly same schedules, like 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, Friday. So starting 14th, which is the next week, 14th until Friday. Keep looking at this. I mean, we have this already there. Download that file and you can upload it in your Outlook. So it'll remain there. I don't see any changes. By the way, just heads up, for the last week, for the last classes, the 2 extra classes I kept for week 5, we normally have our courses finishing up in 4 weeks. That is like a 1 month at least. So if that is when we finish up, which is the 4th week, ending on 27th of June, we will be able to decide based on how much we have covered or if we had left anything, to carry on with 1 or 2 classes, or let's call them extra classes, because it's beyond, like, you know, our 30 hours, whatever. But if there is a need, we will decide on the in the 4th week whether or not to, you know, to extend it to 2 more classes. Okay, so this is not definite. We just depends on how much we cover. It's just a buffer, you know what I'm saying. So 5th, you can think of the last week, which is going to drag into up till the 2nd of July, and 29th and 2nd of July. It's not definitive, so just think of it as something that we will decide later. So thank you so much, and have a great evening. And thanks, Raymond, for making it. You were there. That what's count. What counts. And thank you, Leah, for making it all the way and early morning that you have to spend and wake up. We saw your face and you look good early mornings. It's not that bad. It's just that you just have to.
Hey, oh, wait. What about us?
That's good enough.
Wait.
You are brilliant. You are the main motivation, Biju. You are the one who made me finally see faces of everyone.
Okay.
So you are the
Biju.
motivated. Thank
All
you
right,
very much.
Thank you.
I
Thank
really
you.
enjoy working with you all, and I really hope that you would you know, just be able to find time amongst your busy schedules. And even if you don't make it, don't sweat it. Don't think that there's this obligation. Just think of it that, you know, there is a recording that's going to back you up, and it's not that it's personal. I'm going to take it personal if you don't make it. So please just feel easy. If you can, it'll be wonderful. If you can't, I'll do whatever I can to ensure that you catch up. Good enough then. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Bye bye. I'll see you day after. Not tomorrow, Monique. Not tomorrow.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Barbara, Michelle, make sure
Bye.
don't make a mistake.
No,
Okay,
not
bye-bye.
tomorrow, not tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye bye. Bye.